Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Saturday Night Sleepover. I'm your host, Charli, and today we are joined by Rashel Hariri. She is a marketing consultant and the founder of the She's Interesting podcast, which I have been binging today and I love. Yay! Welcome, Rashel.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to be on. I'm so excited to be on your podcast. And I really appreciate that you are listening to my podcast and tuning into the conversations there. So thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm also excited to have met another podcaster in the South. So that's exciting because I didn't know. Because for those who are listening, I just moved here a month ago from Canada, and I really wasn't sure would I find a good group and community of people. And there's what I've realized is there's actually so many creatives that are down here.
Yeah. Well, we actually met at Pod Circle. I talk about Pod Circle on my podcast all the time because my friend Caitlin,
Mm-hmm.
you probably met her at Pod Circle as well. She's the owner of the Wellnest shop. She's really cool. But she's one of my regular guests, and so we both were at Pod Circle together, and we're like, let's go talk to that cool lady with that cool podcast.
Thanks. And it was so fun to meet you guys. And everyone is so, well, like, regardless, I think everyone in podcast space is very friendly and supportive, and it's such a nice community. But I also think now, like, in the South, people are even more so because it's just like the Southern hospitality plus podcasting is such a great like community. And I come from a larger city and a tech background. And it's not like that, right? Like tech is hyper competitive. It's so different. So I feel like my cortisol levels are lowering day by day. It's
That's
nice.
great news.
Yeah. Good for my well-being.
Awesome. How long have you been doing podcasting?
I launched officially October 3rd of 2023. So it's only been like 8 months that I've been running She's Interesting. And it's honestly been one of the best things that I've done for myself and for my community, of course.
Yeah. It's a weekly podcast, right?
So season 1 was weekly. And then I realized how much work it is because I typically film one-on-one interviews in a studio setting, and then I need to get them edited, and then I have to do all like the content and publishing and website and all of that. And it was taking me too long. So season 1 was weekly. Season 2 became bi-weekly because it was just all that I could handle. But I honestly think I might start going back to weekly and just doing my own solo podcast like this because it's so much fun. And when I have to wait 2 weeks to get something out, I kind of feel like it's too long.
Mm-hmm. Well, I noticed that you just did your own solo. Is that your first time going solo?
I've done solos before, but this was my first time editing my own solo. Usually I have an editor that does it for me. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it myself because I want to move faster, and sending it to someone and reviewing and whatever. Like if I just do it myself, I can get it done, publish it right away. And it was one of those things where like in your mind, you make it seem like a bigger deal than it actually is. And that's what I think I was doing. And when I just exactly where I'm sitting right now is where I recorded it and I edited it myself and then I published it and it was done. And I was like, why did I create all these barriers for no reason?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Caitlin and I always like encourage people to start new podcasts because even though it seems like a big deal, just like most of those barriers are made up barriers in your head.
Yeah.
Like you said.
It's so true. So Sarah Stockdale, she was one of my guests from season 1. I'm getting confused, but she was in season 1. She's the founder of Grow Class, and she's now a 7-figure business. And she just did an interview on someone else's podcast, but she was basically saying, if you are a perfectionist, you will never build anything. You'll never launch anything, and you'll never build because you will constantly get in your own way because your expectations are so high and you're so self-critical. And that really, I was like, okay, are you talking to me? Because I really felt attacked. No, I'm kidding. I really felt that. So I think, yeah, like we just need to get out of our own way. And I think as women, we always have these high standards, and just the way that we're raised and society expects so much from us. And sometimes it's like, let's just be imperfect and messy and sloppy. And even like for us, our sloppy and messy is probably really great for somebody else. So why judge ourselves so much?
Absolutely. Well, you're one of your recent guests too, the one that did the protein bar company.
Lisa Billio.
Yes. She also kind of talked about that too. Like if you put too many things in your way, then you're just going to never do it. And so you just have to believe that you're that person. Like when she talked about like getting protein bars to uh
Justin Bieber.
UAE. Yeah. And she's like, I'm a regular person, but I'm gonna get protein bars to Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
And you just have to believe you're that kind of person. So I
Mhm.
thought that was cool. And she said some really good nuggets of like wisdom in that podcast. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Lisa Bilyeu, for those who don't know her, she is sorry, I have to cough because I'm getting over a cold or allergies. I don't know what it is. But Lisa Bilyeu is the co-founder of Quest Nutrition. So anybody who's had the Quest bars or the Quest chips or whatnot, her and her husband and some other founders started it together. And she is like this very petite, 5'2" lady. And her story is really fascinating because she was basically a stay-at-home wife for a long time. They didn't have kids, but she was just a stay-at-home wife. And she talks about this in her book, Radical Candor, which I highly recommend, how she didn't understand her full potential. And she was just like, well, I'll do anything to support my husband and be a good partner and be the perfect wife. And then after 8 years, she was like, I'm going crazy. I can't do this anymore. And so she talks about her journey of, like growth and mindset and basically going on to be the head of operations for Quest Nutrition, which sold for $1 billion not too long ago. So it really just goes to show that your mindset is everything. And that's something honestly that I feel like I'm constantly working on every day and trying to be better at, almost to the point where I'm like, I think I'm overdoing the mindset thing. But I mean, who's to say? We'll know in a year if it works.
Well, I mean, mindset, you also shift your environment too. That's a huge deal too,
Yeah.
to like start over in a whole new place and like have a whole new like different obstacles, but different goals, different things that affect your everyday. So that's huge.
Yeah. It's a
Awesome.
lot. I mean, how did you, when you moved, how did you deal with the change? Was there any specific things that you did that really just helped you to lessen some of that mental load of when you're new in a new environment?
Yeah. So one of the things that, well, okay, so I have started over at least 3 times.
Mhm.
I started when I like first out of high school. I moved to Hawaii just to go to college because
Wow.
I like just wanted to move to Hawaii,
Insane.
and so I you're on an island and you could take 2 suitcases with you and that's it.
Amazing.
um, yeah, and so then after college, I moved back to DC and did some work there, and then after that, I like on a whim just 2 weeks before I moved to Utah, I didn't decide I was going to move to Utah. I just did
Yeah.
it. And I completely started over and had no friends. And then I got married and then we just did it again. So, one
Mhm.
of the things that I do every single time I do this is when I learn a new area, like the places that I um, need to be somewhere on time, I'll use GPS.
Mm.
But then, like on the way home, I'll try and figure it out on my own. And then I'll end up finding little cool places that I never would have expected to find. Be like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, there's a cute bakery right there. I want to try that someday because I'm more in tune to like looking around instead of just looking at the screen and being like, okay, I have to turn left in 3 blocks.
Mhm.
So like if there's like an area that if there if I have something that I'm like on my way home and I don't have to be anywhere at a certain time, or if I'm just going to try to figure out how to get there, I do try to like get lost and figure out and then find new
Mhm.
cool things that I probably wouldn't have found before. And that has been really effective for me because then also by the time I've like been to that place a few times, then
Mhm.
I can pretty much get there without GPS, and that helps like build the neural pathways in your brain that like
Yeah.
help you feel more at home. So,
That's really helpful because I was thinking about this the other day where I'm like, why can't I remember the streets? Like I can visualize the place and where I need to go, but I'm like, why can't I remember the street names around here? And there's maybe like 3 or 4 street names that I will always remember. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is this road or whatnot. But I think that's really helpful for me to just put the GPS down and follow my own internal compass and be like, I know that I have to go down this street. This is what it's called now. I'm going to make a left here. And you're right. I think that'll make me feel more comfortable. Whereas always having your GPS, because back home I never had my GPS. Like I knew where I was going. I never needed it unless it was somewhere brand new to me. So I really think that's a great tip. And one thing I've been doing since I moved here is I go on Google Maps and I search for things that I want. Like if I'm like a Pilates studio or like a certain type of food or a restaurant, and then I find it and I save it there. And that's kind of helped me as well to explore without even having to leave my house. Cause then I know all these different restaurants and places. And when I actually meet people from here, they'll recommend things and I'll be like, yeah, I saw that on Google Maps. And so it's like a point of conversation too.
Well, I also do that same thing on Instagram.
Mm.
I'll go through the Instagram Explorer or just like search a town that I want to spend more time at and see where people are posting and see what cool things are happening in that town. And so I just like look through the Explore page on Instagram with like a specific place in mind. And then I'm like, oh, this is a dog cafe. I want to take my dog there.
Oh, cute. I really like that. One thing that I really love is every place you go is so dog friendly. And even today I went into a Walmart and I was like, I'm going to take my dog and see if anyone says anything. And they didn't say anything, but back home, like dogs are not welcome in cafes. They're not welcome in most places. And today in the middle of the day, which ASMR, I have a box of brownies with me. I went to pick these up from the Walmart and I was like, come on, Papa, you're coming with me. And it was great. Like it's so nice here.
Your dog's name is Papa?
No, his name is Rumi. We named him after the poet, but he has many nicknames. One of them is Papa or Papas, if we want to be plural for no reason.
What dog doesn't have 15 nicknames?
Yeah. Sometimes we call him Roomba, like just all sorts of things. How many dogs do you have?
I just have the one. His name is Doug.
Oh, cute.
But also we call him Poopy Pants.
There you go. Right. And does he respond to that?
Sometimes, like I'll get home and almost every day when I get home, I always say, all right, Poopy Pants, you ready to go outside?
Yeah. And he's probably like, yeah, Mom, let's
go. Do you have anything that you've ever accidentally trained your dogs?
I don't think so. I was trying to purposely train him how to close the drawers in the kitchen. That did not work. I was like, touch, Rumi, touch. And he just kept barking at me. And I was like, okay, this isn't going anywhere.
This isn't the plan.
No, like this is not how I visualized this. But yeah, have you?
Well, yes, I did. When Doug is a chewer. He only ever chews on his own things like a good boy. So I accept that sometimes I just have pieces of toy all over my floor and there's nothing I can do about it. I just have to clean it up, but it's better than my stuff. So, because he's a chewer, when he had baby teeth, he would always come and try and chew on our hands. And I would say, please don't bite me. And then I would put something that he could chew in his mouth. And so eventually, every time I would say, please don't bite me, he would go and get me a toy or something to put in his mouth. And now I have to hold it for him.
That's really cute.
Yeah, he's super cute.
You know what I love is those, I don't know if you've seen this on TikTok, but they're those like buttons for your dog. So you can say like food, walk, I love you. And I don't know if you have those, but I was thinking of getting it for my dog because I'm just obsessed with him and I would like to know what he's thinking.
Yes. I go on a rabbit hole with those sometimes.
Yeah.
Have you seen the ones where they like figure out that they're a dog and that they like stare in the mirror for too long? They have to like hide all the mirrors.
Oh my God. Is that Bunny? The name of the dog?
Yeah. I think
so. It's like a golden doodle or something. And she's really, really smart. And apparently she had like an existential crisis because she just found a way to communicate and then got really confused about what was happening in her life. So yeah, but yeah. I would love to get a bunch of those buttons for my dog and then also just teach him to say funny things.
Yeah. I feel like, my dog is smart enough to do it, but the other thing he does is he only does something if he wants to do it. If he doesn't want to do it, he's not going to do it. Yeah. Except for the most useful prompt we taught him was like when we're eating, he would always come up and put his face like right next to your plate. I don't know if your dog does that, but
he does. Yeah.
We were like, okay, we can't handle this. So we we taught him the command, go to the corner.
Okay.
And so if we're eating and he's like all up in our business, we just say, go to the corner. And he goes and sits in the corner instead of
Oh,
like
that's
right there.
amazing. My
Mm-hmm.
problem with my dog is he jumps. He's a poodle. He's a mixed poodle. He's an Aussie doodle. So he'll like jump up
Mine's
on
an Aussie
people.
Doodle too.
Oh my God. Okay, so maybe yours does this, or maybe yours is better trained than mine. But mine jumps up on people and does this like hugging motion. And
Mm-hmm.
he's 4.5. Like I've been telling him no for the longest time. But what happens is people like that he does that. And so
Mm-hmm.
immediately when he does that, instead of them pushing him off, they embrace him. And
Mm-hmm.
so he just keeps doing it because he's like, this is great. I jump up, they give me a hug, and it's perfect. And so now I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to train him not to do that. And even this morning, I took him to the coffee shop and he saw some lady as I was ordering my coffee and he was like, big hug. And I'm like, no, get down. I'm sorry. But luckily,
Yeah.
everyone here likes dogs, so it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But like in Toronto, people would be terrified. They'd be like, what is this? Why is he jumping on me?
It's a dog. Yes.
Yeah.
My Doug, we just tell people if they come over to the house, you have to like dogs, and he's going to go crazy for the first 10 minutes, and
Yeah.
then after he decides that you're not a new person anymore, then he will just be his regular chill self.
Yeah, we have the same issue. I guess like maybe it's a breed type of thing. They just get really excited and anxious.
Hmm. Well, Doug's he was born in 2017, so however old that is.
Ah, okay. He's like 7-ish.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's a good boy though. I
Yeah.
have I get so scared to get another dog because he's so good.
Have you seen those videos on TikTok where it's like your first dog was so sweet and then that's why you get a second one and then the second one is just like a total menace. And
Hmm.
so that
Yeah.
I'm the same thing. My husband keeps saying we should get a second and I'm like, no, first of all, it's a lot of responsibility and he
Hmm.
travels, so I'm like I would end up taking care of the dog. But then
Hmm.
also like my dog right now is sleeping on the bed in front of me. He's like a little angel puppy still, even though he's
Hmm.
4.5 and I'm like I can't deal with a second. It's going to be chaos.
Yeah, the other one will not be as good as the first one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But maybe they might be. I don't know. I talk to people with 2 dogs or 3 dogs sometimes, and they're like, "Oh, you love them all different." I'm like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
love this one a lot.
I know. This is my first and only baby.
Mhm. Yeah. We did have a dog before, but it was like my childhood dog, and he was very old and very sad,
Oh.
and so. But it took me a long time to, because I think that's an important thing about dog ownership is
Mhm.
that you have to accept that you're not just getting a puppy, you're not just getting like your favorite dog in the middle age, you're also getting like having to clean up pee all the time and being
Mm.
like uh having a senior dog that can't walk and having to watch them struggle and be in pain. And
Oh, it's so sad.
yeah, it's like super sad, but I think it's important because I knew that with my experience with my childhood dog, he was very, very sad and very old. And it was a eye-opening experience to see him all the way to the end because he was 17 when he died.
Oh, wow. So he had a
So
long life.
yeah, super long
Yeah.
life. And so at the end of that, I was like, all right, I've accepted that this is the end. So
Mhm.
now I know I can get a dog
Yeah.
and like have it for his whole life. So,
Oh, that's good. See, this is my first and only dog. I've had all sorts of animals. I've had birds, I've had chicks, I've had cats, but this is my first dog and I am obsessed. My husband and I will sometimes like talk about if he's
mhm.
not around and we both get so emotional. We're like, we have to stop talking about this right now because we're both going to cry because we love him so much.
If I go on a trip, if I drop him off to the borders, I
Yeah.
will cry when I drop him off.
Yeah.
It's I understand completely.
Yeah. He's literally it's also because we don't have any kids. So he's our
Same.
baby. Like he's
Hmm.
my pride and joy. And
Hmm.
so I love him so much. I'm just staring at him right now. He's so cute.
I love him too, and I don't even know him. So I love all
Thank
dogs.
you.
So.
I'm sure he would be really happy to hear that. He's like very much obsessed with people liking him.
Well, I already do. So
Yeah.
there's that. One of the things that I had on my list is we both talked about a Friends reference when we were messaging each other. And so I
Yeah.
thought it would be kind of fun to be like, everybody has like an introductory to Friends.
Mhm.
Some people like they watched it when they were growing up, and some people like didn't watch it until later. And so I
Yeah.
was wondering about your introductory story to the show Friends.
Oh, I was always obsessed with Friends. It was so we would watch it in Eastern time. It was on, I think, at 8 p.m. every Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So whether I had like an exam or a test the next day, this was like in high school, I was watching Friends. And it was
Mm-hmm.
the worst because I remember it was, I don't know if it was like NBC or ABC or whatever. It was like Friends, then Will and Grace, and then another show and another show. And it was just like I would be on in front of the TV from basically like 7:38 to like 10 p.m. at night. But I loved Friends. That was one of my favorite shows growing up. My friends and I would then like talk about it the next day at school. It was so good. And to this day, it's like I still watch some of the episodes and it's very comforting because
Mm-hmm.
I just really liked the characters. But honestly, some of the jokes and things now that I watch back, like they didn't age well. So,
Probably not too well, but
no.
it is one of those shows that for me, I didn't get introduced to it till college, and
Okay.
my roommate had all 10 seasons,
Mm,
and sometimes we would just like spend until 11 o'clock at night watching Friends, and then wake up the next morning at 7
yeah.
and then watch more before our classes,
Yeah.
just because I had never watched it before. So
Yeah, it's
um,
interesting too. Like I was mentioning to Charlie before we got on the podcast that I was like kind of sick, so my voice sounds different. And so for any of you who were friends watching Friends, you'd know the reference to Phoebe Buffay and when she would sing "Smelly Cat" when she was sick, and her voice sounded
yeah.
so much better, and she was like a better artist. And I'm like, this could be good for the podcast.
Yeah.
This
I
is all good.
I well, I don't think that media the same, like now that they have it separated out, even if they release it in groups and separate it out, it's not the same as like waiting every single week for it.
Mm.
And it's interesting to think that these generations growing up aren't going to have that same like flow, like wake up and can't wait to talk to your friends at school the next day. Can you
Yeah,
believe what happened?
it's so true. And even like with commercials, I just remember like they would get to like a good part in a show or something like that, and all of a sudden the commercial, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess bathroom break or something, until it starts again. And my sister and I would always be watching, and I'm like, call me if the show starts again. I've got to go to the bathroom. So like those
Mom told me how to take the trash out.
yeah, these are experiences that only like a certain generation and above can really reference, and like we've experienced these things. But actually, funny enough, I started watching season 2 of Sex and the City over the weekend because I
Mm-hmm.
realized it was on Netflix, and that was one of my favorite shows as well.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not in high school. I don't know when it started, but I definitely was not allowed to watch Sex and the City in high school. My mom was like, no, no, no. This is where I draw the line. But that was another one too where I was watching and I'm like, oh, the nostalgic feelings, because I think I started watching it when I was in high school, in university.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was me for Friends. My parents wouldn't let me watch Friends.
Yeah.
But I had really strict parents, so but I was gonna say that show has gotten me through quite a bit because my husband used to work nights, and so I would
Mm.
leave Friends on at night, so I didn't feel like there was gonna be a ghost coming to attack me.
Oh. Okay, can we just talk about this for a second? Why do all women, every single woman I've talked to, get scared when we're home alone? Like it's this thing that we all have, no matter what age you are. Like if you're in your 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, teenager, you're alone. And there's always this fear that someone's going to come and murder you. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it's like an irrational fear or if it's like a societal thing and we're all on edge.
Or maybe one of your recent episodes was also about generational trauma.
Mm,
Maybe someone back in the generations got harmed while they were home
at
alone.
home. Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, you never know. Like there's a reason for it, but it's wild because I'll tell my other friends too. Like I live in an apartment now, but when we were in Toronto, I lived in a house. And so when my husband would travel and I was home alone for a long time, like weeks by myself, it would take me a while to get comfortable just sleeping in the house. We had an alarm, we had like 3M film on all of our windows, so if anyone tries to break in, it wouldn't like break.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It was just like an irrational fear that I always had. I was like, anyone could break in at any moment. And how will me and the dog, my poodle who loves everyone, how will we protect ourselves?
Well, my dog has been tested and he is not a guard dog at all. One time I had family that they were just passing through and they
Yeah.
needed a place to stay from 3 a.m. until like the next morning when they could just get back in the car and drive. And so they needed a place to sleep and shower and that's it. And so I was like, well, I'm going to bed, but you can, here's the password to all my stuff. You can come in whenever you want. So she came in with her son at 3 a.m. and my dog did nothing.
Your dog's like, oh, welcome. I made you some tea.
Yeah, basically.
That's amazing. I mean, honestly, it's the beauty of having a poodle, but at the same time, I'm like, maybe I should get a second dog and it'll be like a Doberman or something like that because my dog is a
little more
wimp.
dangerous.
Yeah, something a little more like protective. I remember I would be home alone with the dog and we'd both hear something and he would literally look at me like, what are you going to do about it? And I'm like, you're the dog.
You're the one with the teeth.
Yeah, you're supposed to protect me. And he was like, no, ma'am, I'm scared.
That's funny. My dog, whenever I would be home, okay, so before, whenever I lived in Utah, we lived in a house that I am 1,000% sure was haunted. I don't know if you believe in ghosts or not, but my dog would just like watch things that weren't there. And it was so unsettling.
That is so, okay, so when was the first time you thought there was a ghost in the house?
Okay, so I grew up in a pretty haunted house. So I've always been like pretty, like, what's that? But I think when we first moved in, we had no furniture in the house and there were some windows open. So, but it was still like eerie feeling and it felt more than the windows being open, but like all of the doors upstairs, we were laying downstairs and all the doors upstairs started opening and closing.
I would be like listing that house for sale so fast.
We had just moved in.
Oh my God. That's wild. Was it like an older heritage home or something like that?
No, it was like built in the 70s. Split entry, regular neighborhood.
Yeah.
No reason it should be haunted except for maybe like some old people might have died there.
Okay.
But then like we had many haunted experiences the whole time we lived there. We lived there from 2016 until 2022.
Oh wow. Okay.
But like the TV would come on. There was like
that's scary.
There one part of the house that was like the pantry downstairs. No. So many like spooky things happened in that room. And then as we were moving out, I went to go open the door for the pantry to like start packing some of the things in there. And I had all my friends with me. And one of them was like, I'm having a hard time getting this door open. Can you open it? And I was just like, hey, we're trying to get in. Just let us in. And then I like went and turned the door handle and like pushed against the door. And someone pushed back on the door. Something pushed back on the door as I was trying to go in. And then my other friend tried the same thing and that happened. And then the door handle fell off.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That pantry was so like, it was not good. Some of it like energy was like, I think there was two different ghosts. There was one that was just like mischievous and did funny things.
Yeah.
And like was just there. And then the other one was like, the one that was in the pantry was bad news.
Bad vibes. Yeah. Oh my God, that's so scary. I would literally be like, I cannot come back here anymore. The door handle came off.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Luckily we were moving out. I think that they were upset that we were moving out because we were upset when we were moving in. I just think that they didn't like the shift in energy. I sometimes wonder like if I ever go back there and knock on the door and be like, hey, tell me how you feel about the pantry.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I don't know if you've ever watched those ghost shows where they go into like a house and they have these radar systems and they can see energies, and it's like, it always freaks me out because it's not something that I like to think about. I very much like go about my day, and I believe in like spirituality and synchronicity and connecting to spirits and stuff, but I just don't like to think that they're with us. Like I don't want to be involved in that. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to be a medium. I don't want to meet a medium.
Well, luckily it's very far away. You don't have to worry about it. And my house now is fine.
That's good. I'm happy. I'm happy for you, and I'm happy for the ghosts in your old house.
Yeah, hopefully you're at peace with whoever lives there now.
Yeah.
That they paid us a lot of money. Thanks. But yeah, so moving to Arkansas has a lot of perks, I guess. More than just finding cool new coffee places and stuff like that. Sometimes you get rid of your ghosts.
Yeah.
And well, okay, so here's another thing that I put down on my list to talk about is I don't know that much about Canada. I am a typical American who like only knows what they've seen on TV, and that is Degrassi and Working Moms are the ones that I have seen. And have you watched Working Moms? Because you're somewhat like the main character.
Working Moms, I haven't. Okay, so I've only seen, this is a funny story. I haven't actually seen that many episodes of Working Moms. I've only seen a couple, but it was a show that my husband loved, and he was binge watching it, and he thought it was so funny. And I don't think he's like their target demographic, but he was like, this is such a good show. And then he went on to find a TED Talk by the main woman who's like the main character and director, producer, or whatever. And he's like, she's so badass. You should, like follow her and listen to her TED Talk. But so yeah, I haven't seen it myself, but I do know that it was filmed in Toronto, which is where I'm from. So yeah, let's do some myth busting about Canada. I can tell you guys like what's true. We don't like, not everybody likes maple syrup. Wow. No, actually, I feel like, no, that's a lie. Who doesn't like maple syrup? It's amazing. It's so good.
Is everyone as nice as they say?
I don't think so. I think Canadians are polite, and they're like surface level nice, but I feel like having moved to the South, like Southern people are kind. And I think there's a difference between being nice and being kind. And so yeah, I think it's different.
Have you ever seen that one? It's like a TikTok or Instagram reel or whatever it is, but it's like a guy and he says, hippies are bad people cosplaying as good people, and or cosplaying as kind people, and then death metal people are nice people cosplaying as bad people or rude people or something like that. I'm totally ruining this guy's content. But that's what that reminds me of, is there's like a difference between being nice and being kind. And so I feel like the hippies are maybe nice and the death metal people are kind.
Yeah.
That's what
I totally see what you mean though, because I think, yeah, there's such a clear difference. Like you can just be very surface level nice. Like Canadians are very nice and they'll be polite and whatever. And even I feel like ever since COVID, they're not even that nice, to be honest. Like there's a lot, especially in the big cities, people are go, go, go. But I think for the most part, like the difference that I've noticed from Toronto and big city to the South is like people just, they generally have more time to have conversations and talk to you. And I've met so many people in my neighborhood just because they were at the same coffee shop and they liked my dog and we started talking and then we exchanged phone numbers and now we're friends. Like that doesn't usually happen in Toronto. I think it's also like big city vibes where you're like, why is this person talking to me? Are they going to murder me? Like why? That's kind of, that's how it is. But you can't say that. That's not representative of all of Canada, right? We also have like part of Canada they speak French. Like there's parts of Quebec that you go to and they don't even speak English at all. They speak Quebecois. So there's that. And you guys do Spanish, right? Is that something that you have to learn in school?
Yeah. Well, you get to choose between Spanish. Well, it depends on how big of a school you grew up in. Because I grew up in a place that had a very small school, and you got to the only one there was to choose was Spanish. But some people get to choose ASL or German or French or Latin. Those are the main, most popular ones.
Oh wow, yeah, we had to. Since the fourth grade, they make you basically mandatory from fourth grade to ninth grade. You have to take French as one of your classes. And so I think it's good that it teaches you some of the foundations and like, but we had a whole unit that was all about like pizza. It was called, the unit was called La Pizza. And it was like all the different toppings that you would order on a pizza. I mean, I guess that's helpful if you go to France. I can't imagine that they have the greatest pizzas in France, but that's the education system and what they would teach us.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody speaks French at least a little bit. So
Yeah.
I wonder if there's enough, like, since everybody has to do it, I wonder if there's like somewhat of like a pigeon that you have for French. Like when I lived in Hawaii, like enough people spoke like Hawaiian and English and Spanish. And okay, so the reason why that language is that way it is because when the sugar companies came to and had all the plantations in Hawaii, all of the people who were doing all of the work on the plantations, none of them spoke the same language. Some of them were Portuguese, some of them were speaking Spanish, Japanese,
Yeah.
Hawaiian, and English. And then so pidgin is like a mix of all of those because it's everyone trying to just communicate with each other.
Cool.
And so it's pretty cool. But I wonder if there's something like that with French and English in Canada. That
I think in certain provinces, there's like the French is also different. And also the French in Canada is not like the French in France. It also sounds different. Like the French in France is much smoother, I think, when they talk. But in like Quebecois French is it's more like rough sounding, I would say.
English in America is different than English in England. So
It's
or
true.
English in Canada for that matter.
Yeah, I had
Like
someone tell me.
Washroom.
That's true. Wait, you guys say restroom here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember one time I was in the States and I was like, "Sorry, can you tell me where the washroom is?" And they were like, "The washroom? What's the washroom?" And I was like, "Oh God, restroom." So now I exclusively use the term restroom. But even like the way that we pronounce things or the way that we write things, now that I'm in the States, I'm trying to like purposely change the way I write. So instead of writing color with OUR, it's LOR.
Yeah.
Or like we say, I had this conversation with a friend here where we say niche, but you guys say niche.
Oh, I say niche.
Oh, okay, there
But
you
I
go.
also say foyer instead of foyer.
Oh, you got a little French in you.
I guess. Well, that is my heritage, if you can't tell by my nose.
There you go.
Well, I don't have very much connection with any of my ancestry or anything like that, but my I remember I knew that I was like some part of me is French and French Canadian at that. And they immigrated to Kansas like a few generations ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, I knew that about myself, and then I went to I was like, oh, I don't really look that French. And then I went to like a museum and saw a picture of a French guy, and I was like, oh, I kind of do.
There you go. Yeah. Have you been to France?
I have not. I've not been outside of America. The closest I've been is Hawaii.
Ah, there you go. I think if you went to France, you'd be like, wow, these are my people.
Well, I've had two different experiences in my life because my parents were my parents had a crazy divorce, and my mom was very estranged from her family, and then estranged from my dad, which in turn led me to be estranged from my dad's family. So as a grown up, I've had two experiences in my life where I got to go meet all my dad's family, and I felt like I don't look like any of these people, but I act like all of these people, and I didn't have very much contact with them, so that was really cool. And then with my mom, I had the opportunity to go meet all of them as a grown up. And I was like, I don't act like any of these people, but I look like all of these people.
That's so interesting.
It's very interesting.
That's really cool. I always wonder as well. So my father passed away when I was really young. And so my mom raised us. So I've met like my aunts and uncles from my dad's side of the family, but we're just not very close. Like I really like my mom's side of the family, but I wonder, like, I'm like, what about my extended cousins? Like my dad's second cousins, third cousins, what are they like? What do they look like? I find like family generational stuff really, really fascinating. And for the longest time, I felt like, man, I wish I knew more about my family history, especially from my dad's side of the family. I only know like a few things. Like I know my grandfather was very poetic. and he was into the arts and things like that, which makes sense because me and one of my sisters were much more on the creative side. But I feel like it can tell you so much about yourself and why you are the way you are.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you're listening to your podcast about generational trauma? Something came up that it reminded me, like there, all of this stuff is in your bones. And there's a story
Yeah.
from my family. My dad in a high school art class, they did a pottery unit, and he went and made this seal. And he had it from high school, and he just like went and put it in a box and got fired and everything. And
Hmm.
then my sister did a pottery unit in her high school pottery class, and she came back to my dad and said, "Hey, look at this seal I made." And he was like, "Wait a second." And he went and got his out of the box. They were identical.
Stop. That's so interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah. There you
So it's
go.
like it's like in there. It's like in your DNA. It's like coded in there. Like you don't
Yeah.
even know. And because I had the experience of like not having very much contact with my dad or any of my dad's family, like it's
Mhm.
very interesting to see to me like this is like nature versus nurture or whatever. Like this is very much nature. Like I had no contact with you for a lot of my life, and I say things the way you say things. I think the way you
Yeah.
think. I've I my, I cross my T's the same way you cross your T's, like random
Wow.
stuff that it doesn't make any sense why I do it that way, but I do. Isn't
Yeah.
that so interesting?
I love that. One thing though, for anyone who's listening is like kind of like me who doesn't know too much about their family history or isn't as connected. One thing that Dr. Peck said on the podcast episode that really stays with me until this day is because I brought it up to her and I said, listen, I don't know as much about my family history. And that's always bothered me because I feel like when you know where you came from, it gives you this, I don't know, like this internal understanding of yourself and confidence and all of these things. And so I was like, I feel like it's something I've always wanted. And her response to me was that you just need to know basically like where you're from and understand what happened during that time. It doesn't have to be like the specifics of what your family did. And then she also said, if there's something that's drawing you to it, go and try that. And so she gave me the example that one of her patients had decided for some reason that this person wanted to do pottery. Like
Mm-hmm.
pottery felt like the right thing to do. And so this person went to a pottery class. And while they were in the pottery class, they got really overwhelmed with emotion. And this person was crying. And so she's like, sometimes things like that, where you don't understand why it's resonating with you so much, is it's actually because of something that your ancestors did. And I thought that that was really, first of all, it was really sweet to hear that there's that kind of connection without you even knowing these people. But also it gave me a sense of calm because I'm like, yeah, I should realize that certain things that I like doing is probably because somewhere in my ancestry, I had like a great, great, great grandma or grandfather, even who also liked similar things or
Mm-hmm.
also maybe had the same sense of humor as I do. And I found that to be like a very wholesome response from her that made me feel honestly better that I'm like, it's fine that I don't know everything. And maybe it's just better that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really like that, and I don't think she said this, but this is the thing that made me think of is like
Mhm.
maybe she said different words, but um, like you can ask your body. Did she say something like that?
Yeah, like and basically in the sense of like when you're as you're trying things and you're doing things, you'll feel it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a
Yeah.
sense, yeah, it's like asking your body.
Mm-hmm. Well, because like one of the things that I learned working in mental health is I had like there were days where it was physically very draining
Mm,
day. Like you spent the day being yelled at and being
it's hard.
physically, yeah, involved with a lot of different things. And
Hmm.
so every time that would happen, I would very intentionally do like yoga the next day and set an intention, be like, I can't show these emotions in the moment of like working, but I'm going to put those in a box, and then tomorrow I'm going to do yoga and just release all of those. And
Oh,
it was like every single time I had to do it. Otherwise, I would get all those emotions would get trapped, and I wouldn't have anything to do with them. So, I
yeah.
think that is kind of similar too. Like you could maybe do something with the intent, like yoga or go on a walk or something with the intention of like, okay, today I'm going to um, try and connect with my ancestors or like figure out what path they would want me to take or something like that. Or the other thing that I do is, okay, so for a year of my life, I was a midwife apprentice. And so I learned a lot about herbs and
Mhm.
like ancient medicine and that kind of stuff at that time. And so I always make the joke of like when I'm making tea, I just kind of let the ancestors tell me how much to put in.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So, because like there's different herbs that they do different things. And I'm like, the ancestors told me I need to put more of this one. And I like smell it and I'll be
Yeah.
like, no, it's not ready yet. Like, I
Yeah.
just like let whatever energy is coming from the herbs come into the
Like guide
energy of,
you.
yeah.
I really like what you said about the yoga piece and finding a way to release that energy. And I think just like regardless of what your job is, if you are from a CEO and founder to a stay-at-home mom, it's so important that we have these physical release of our stress. I've been watching a lot of like TikToks of these trauma therapists, like physical therapists, and how they say you hold a lot of trauma in your hips. And so there's certain ways that you can stretch them, or like in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, how it's so important to hit certain pressure points and release things in your body. So
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done acupuncture in a few years, but I'm actually looking to get back into that again because I can sense that, especially like going from one country to another, like completely changing my life, moving to different countries, trying to figure things out. Although I'm excited, I know that it is a stressful situation to be in. Like
Mm-hmm.
moving is one of the most stressful things. What is it? Moving, death, and like getting married or something like that, or a new job. It's like the most stressful things you can do in your life. And so I think it's so important to find ways that will help you release that tension, even if you don't realize you're carrying it. Like, sometimes you don't even realize your shoulders
Mm-hmm.
are super tense.
Or
And
you're
then all of a
clenching your
sudden,
jaw.
yeah, you're clenching your jaw, or you're in a yoga class and they're like, now release your toes or something. And you're like, oh, I didn't realize I was so tense in my feet. Like something random like that. But yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I used to do this mindfulness. I probably still do it sometimes, but I used to do it more frequently. Where I would, like in yoga, savasana or whatever, I would
Mhm.
lay there and just be mindful and be aware of everything in my body. And then, like, I would picture myself as like a gingerbread cookie, like,
Mhm.
and then just like fill the gingerbread cookie with light and love all
Oh,
the
I
way,
like
for like
that.
starting at my feet and then going all the way up to my head, and then like
Yeah.
at the end of that, like the gingerbread cookie is just full of light and love, and like everything is out and
Hmm.
it's refilled with positivity. Like I come back in and I'm like, my anger is feeling or my body's feeling red because I'm angry, or like whatever
Hmm.
color it is, and
Yeah.
then just like slowly replacing that color with light and love.
So, do you have like a daily practice or something that you do, like journaling or meditating or some way to just sort of like balance yourself in life? And I mean, I don't know where most of your listeners are listening in from, but like, yes, living in the South is generally a nicer pace than living, let's say, in like New York or LA, but there's still stressors every day and things that we're worrying about. And the economy is not great right now. So, I'm always curious to hear what other people do to center themselves just so that I can find new habits and things to incorporate into my routine.
I try to get fresh air while I'm at work. That's something that I notice, that if
Mm.
I sit in my office too much, then I will start to bundle things up.
Mm.
Um, I make a habit to like try and find things to be grateful for.
Hmm.
And I also, I'm, I don't do it regularly, but I try to make intentional self care something that I do. Um, Enough, like I like notice when I need something that is intentionally self-care. Like I think
Hmm.
self-care is usually like, oh, we're gonna do a face mask and paint our nails or whatever it
Yeah.
is, but that's just like that's not really, I mean, it is self-care, but it's self-care is something that is like outside of a basic need that you have to
Yeah.
go somewhere else to get, and just like really spend time focusing on that. So yeah, I think I
Yeah.
do a lot of, like a lot of my I don't have any good habits at this time.
Mm.
But I do have a lot of stuff that's second nature. Like um I will do things like on my drive to and from work to like switch from work mode to home mode,
Mm,
or I do a lot of like singing or listening to music that in my car by myself, where I'm
yeah.
just like, this song, I'm sad right now, so I'm going to listen to this song and stay sad till the end of the song, and then I'm going to move on, like
Oh, I
stuff
like
like
that.
that. Hmm.
Yeah. I think it's good. You said so many good things there. So like the listening to the music one I think is so important because one, it can either help you to feel those emotions that you're feeling, or it can really help to elevate your mood. And that's why I
Hmm.
just like love music and going to concerts. And I just really respect anyone that can make something. Like someone had a vision of a sound and then they created it, and all of us are touched by it. It's such a beautiful thing. And then also with like the habits and how you said you don't have like a specific habit that you do regularly. I totally think that's okay. I feel like social media makes us think that we have to have these regular habits where we do the same thing over and over again. But if you think about it, like we're humans and we go through different emotions, and every day, especially as women, because our hormones change depending on this part of the cycle that we're in,
Hmm.
we need different things at different time. And so if we were to do the exact same thing and have the same habit every day all the time, it just isn't it conducive to supporting you in any way. I think like obviously if you exercise every morning, that's great, keep doing that. Like don't stop. But sometimes you don't have to journal every day. Maybe in the morning one time you don't have anything to say and you would rather like absorb a podcast, or like meditate or something versus writing.
Hmm.
I also think that one thing I've been thinking about a lot is energy givers and takers, and like when
Hmm.
do I need to do things that are going to fill up my cup and give me more energy, and what are the things I'm doing throughout the day that are taking energy away from me. And I don't
Hmm.
know, I think it all comes down to living more of like a holistic life and intuitively recognizing what you need. And I feel like as we get older and smarter and we know ourselves better, it becomes easier to understand these things. Where if I compare myself to like 10 years ago, like 20 something year old Rashel,
Hmm.
I don't think that I would even know. Like I feel like I was just full of distractions.
Hmm. Yeah, I am totally on board with that. I like that. Well, because something that goes hand in hand with that is like your emotions and your body. They're like tied together. They're not
Hmm.
just totally static. And so, like when you aren't taking, like eating enough food or sleeping enough at night or taking care of your basic needs or
Hmm.
socializing enough, socializing is a basic need.
Yeah.
Like your emotions will take the toll on it too. And you might fall back into some of those patterns of like bottling it up or not expressing when you need to or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And so like I think the habits are 100% good. And um, I also think that is it's equally important to know your body, know
Hmm.
your emotions, and know how they play off of each other, and then like having a second nature. Oh, I haven't slept enough last night, and so today
Yes.
I'm feeling a little weepy. Like, and to like recognize that that is a like the cause and effect of what your physical and emotional state is. I think being able
Hmm.
to recognize and label it is just as important as having a journaling habit or exercising every day. All of those things are like the regular upkeep of your human self.
Yeah, I actually love that. It's like just in simple terms, like just be the ability to be able to like check yourself and be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I was really grumpy this morning, and that's because I didn't sleep well yesterday, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm like hypersensitive to feedback today,
Mm-hmm.
and oh, that's because I didn't exercise. So
Or maybe
my yeah.
my hormones are in a different part of a cycle
Yes.
that I am now feeling a little not only just the weepy or emotional, but there's
Mhm.
also more times that you feel like more productive on different parts of
Yes.
your cycle, times that you feel like the as women we get the bad rap for like, oh, you're more emotional because you have more hormones. But yeah, we're more emotional and we're more productive at certain times, and we're
Yep.
um more able to like put on muscle mass in different times, as long as we know like we're
That's right.
serve our bodies, or and we are like more creative at this time, or like whatever it is. Like there are
Mhm.
so many different like hormones get the bad rap, but they also like have so much more to offer than just being emotional.
It's so true. And I think like for anyone who's listening, look into cycle syncing. If you feel
Mhm.
like, hey, why am I so up and down and I can't figure it out? And it, like you'd be surprised today how many women still don't know about the 4 different phases of their cycle. And I
Mhm.
highly recommend for anyone who's listening, look into the phases and track your cycle so that you know how like if you know you're in your luteal phase and you're kind of in your feels during that time, then try not to do like lots of social events or things like that. If you're just not feeling your best, save that for like in your follicular or ovulation phase where you are glowing and you feel amazing and you're feeling hot. You know what I mean? Save it for
Mhm.
that, but also then not feel bad about the times where you're like, why do I just want to cocoon? And that's
Mhm.
totally fine. That's because your body needs that.
Mhm. Listen to your body.
Yeah.
Um, the example when this comes up that I will forever bring up and always point out is the U.S. soccer team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I they all learned when their parts of their cycle were, and then they did tailor-made exercises for different parts of their cycle, and then trained different things during those times. The year that they implemented that, they won the World Cup.
Is this available online? Can I find this? I need to know which exercises to do when because I don't.
I'm sure there's got to be some Instagram or something
Yeah,
somewhere dedicated to that.
it's
Or
true.
yeah, I a lot of my wisdom that I get about cycling and all that kind of stuff comes from one of my regular guests is my midwife preceptor, and she
Mhm.
has so much good knowledge and information about women's
Yeah.
hormones and cycles and stuff like that. So
It's so important. No, and I think it's just crazy where in school they'll teach you about sex ed, or in my elementary school they did, but no one ever talks about your hormones. And
mm-hmm.
so it's like, I feel like if you're going to do that, it should actually be like a more scientific approach to teaching young people
Yeah,
what this actually looks like.
or teaching like we teach people to go like on hormonal birth control, which some people are in life situations that they need that,
Yeah.
but they don't tell you that like we don't have a way to clean that out of urine, so now it's just in the water supply forever.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but I mean, oh my God. My brain is like there's a lot going on up there right now.
Yeah, like we don't have a way to clean out so much stuff out of our water, like a lot of psychedelic or psychiatric meds, we don't have a way to clean those out either. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
So, wow.
It's wild.
We're both just
I
like
feel
looking
like
at
I
each
just
other.
blew your mind.
You blew my mind. I don't know what to do with this. I have to go Google some stuff now.
Don't fall too deep in a rabbit hole. It'll freak you out. Because then
Yeah,
sometimes, like, also remember, we don't know how to get that out, but we also remember that water used to be dinosaur pee. So there's
that is
that.
true. It's
Mhm.
interesting because I've been going through these documentary series on Netflix, and there's one
Mhm.
that's like Hack Your Health, and then there was this other one I watched, and so I watched both of them because I'm really interested in how to better take care of myself and my body, and I want to be really smart about understanding where my food sources come from because our farming and agricultural systems are so messed up, and
Mhm.
so I watched these 2 documentaries and I literally left just being like, I don't know what I can eat anymore. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I can't eat that chicken because I don't know where it's from. I don't know
Mhm.
where this beef is from and what they fed it. And it was, and I still don't have the answer. So if anyone's listening and you have the answer, or if, Charli, you have the answer, please tell me
I
because
don't have the answer.
it's so stressful and it's like such a basic human need to be able to feed yourself and take care of
Mhm.
yourself. But we don't even know if these animals are sick, like the chicken that I'm picking up at
Did you
like a
watch the twin
drive-through.
one?
That's the one. Yeah, Hack Your Health
Yeah.
Twin Edition.
Yeah. Yeah. With the salmon.
Oh
The
yeah, the
salmon was
salmon
the one that
farms.
got me.
It's
And
gross.
my answer is I don't have the answer, but I always talk on my podcast about how I want to start a compound
Mm,
and or a commune and just have like some people will work the land and some
mhm.
people will go out and make the money, and everything is consensual. Nobody's like required to do one or the other. You just get to do what you
Yeah,
want, and then we all get to like eat organic food that we know where it came
love it.
from and like live a harmonious life. But the number one rule, because all the documentaries I always watch is like, it's like, this was so harmonious and wonderful, and then someone started raping everyone, so there has to
Yeah.
be no rape. That is
Then it
that is
turned
number
into a
one rule.
cult.
Yeah.
A leader emerged somehow.
Yes, that's always how it goes. And so I always watch those and I'm like, I want to do that, but then it gets to a certain point, I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. But anyway,
It's
so
funny.
that's my
Yeah.
answer. It's not real, but that's all I got.
I mean, I see where you're coming from because I always tell my husband I want us to have like a farm, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
not a big acreage, just something where we can grow our own vegetables or hire someone to, tend to the vegetables and have animals on the farm. That's my ideal. Like my retirement is having something like that and just relaxing. But I wish I could have that now so that I could control the food sources, the pesticides, all of these things. And it's funny because your approach was very community based and mine was so individualistic because I'm like, on my farm,
My
we will
farm.
have fresh food.
Well, humans are community is a basic need, so
It's true.
because we can't survive without each other.
Yeah.
Unless, I mean, have you watched Alone? Those people go crazy on that show.
I don't think I have. Is this on Netflix?
No, well, I think there are some seasons on Netflix, but it's
Mhm.
originally based on the History Channel. And it's a show where people go out into the wilderness and there's no camera crew, there's no anything. They
Oh,
just
yeah.
have to film everything themselves. And they're out there for as long as they're out there. And then at the end of it, whoever is the last person to tap out wins a certain amount of money.
Oh my God. I for sure would go crazy. Like I'm
Mhm.
not even gonna pretend. Like day two, I'd be a mess. Get me out of here. I'd be talking to myself. Like that's wild.
Yeah. You just need your husband and roomie.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, that seems like a pretty good place to pause, unless you had anything else that you wanted to add that we didn't get to talk about.
No, I think this was fun. I mean, there was no real agenda. So I hope the people that were listening from our dog stories to living in the wilderness got something out of this.
That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
That's the vision of the podcast, is just to be that friend that you wish you had time to call while you were folding laundry, but you don't have time because you're folding laundry.
Yeah. There you go. We're that friend.
Yeah, there we are. um, if you want to be found, where can
Yes.
people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Rashel Hariri or my podcast, She's Interesting. You can find us at She's Interesting Podcast on Instagram. You can always find She's Interesting across Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. We're literally everywhere, and there's lots of great content on a bi-weekly and maybe soon to be weekly basis. I am sharing insights about, being a founder, a business owner. I interview 7-figure women founders, and my goal is to basically get more women to the 7-figure level, including myself. So
Nice.
tune in.
If you like this podcast, I can guarantee you'll probably like that podcast, because I've been listening to it and I was like, oh, this feels like my podcast. That's why I
Same
invited
vibes.
you today.
Yeah.
Yes, except for I have less of a plan. I feel like yours is so much more put together.
Well, I appreciate that.
Anyway, so thank you for coming into the chaos. Thank you. We appreciate every listener, and check out She's Interesting. Oh, Rashel Harari. How do you spell that?
Yes.
For people that are trying to find you on Instagram.
For sure. It's Rashel Hariri, HARASHEL, last name HARIRI.
Okay, there you go. Now you can go find her. Thank you for tuning in. Like, share, follow, leave us a review, send us a comment, or all of the things. Okay, that's it. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Love you. Bye.